Hello, New York Jet fans, and welcome. This is Rich Sports Talk. I'm your host, Nolan Rich. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today. Really excited to have you on. And after what was a brutal day yesterday for New York Jet fans, today maybe some more optimism with the NFL trade deadline tomorrow. We're going to look at the Jets, what they could potentially do before the deadline, players that could be in on, addressing the latest rumors, and a lot more. But if you're new to our channel and you love New York Jets content, make sure you bash that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button and also give us a comment. And again, guys, if you are joining us after the previous video, I'd love to hear what you have to say. I'd love to get a lot of your comments. We will get to them in the next video. And I'm so excited to see you guys as always. But we are approaching an exciting time and a unique time for this New York Jet team because Joe Douglas has always made trades at the trade deadline. And in fact, he already did one this year with James Robinson. But for the first time, the New York Jets are buyers. And one of the biggest rumors that was coming out today was the Jets' interest in Bradley Chubb. Now, the rumor basically started with Peter King on his Football Morning in America column saying that the Jets were one of the teams that would be in the running. There have been rumors that Chubb has been someone that the Jets have called about and that it is someone that they've had interest, although Rich Cimini tweeted about an hour ago that it doesn't look like the Chubb thing is going to happen. But there's a lot to dissect with the Chubb thing. And personally, when I heard the news, and I would love to hear your comments, guys, I didn't love the move personally because it sounded like the price tag was going to be a first-round pick. And look, Bradley Chubb is a dynamic pass rusher and would make this great defense even better. But the fact that you have to pay it first and then pay Chubb, to me, seems like a bit of a heavy price to go and get Chubb. And really, the defense isn't the problem with this team. And that's really what my major concern is. Look, the defense would be better under Bradley Chubb. And would it hedge Carl Lawson next year where they could get out of the Carl Lawson contract and save about $10 to $15 million? That could be a smart investment. Chubb, of course, wants a big payday as well. But my biggest thing with the whole Chubb thing is, look, the defense isn't the issue right now. It's the offense. And there's been a lot of rumblings. I know Jet fans on the channel have been basically asking, well, what's going to happen with Elijah Moore at the trade deadline? There's been rumors about what could happen to Denzel Mims, although I don't think Denzel Mims is going anywhere. I know Robert Saleh addressed his press conference moments ago that Elijah Moore is not going anywhere for the time being, but we will have to wait and see with that. But for the Jets at this trade deadline with Joe Douglas, and again, guys, if there's certain players you'd like to see the Jets go after, please comment. Would love to hear from you in the chat. The chat is open as always. But I would be interested to see what Joe Douglas will do. Now, the thing with the Jets is they have some interesting offensive line news that could potentially impact the trade deadline and the importance of the offensive line. The problem is everyone's looking for offensive line, and there's a couple of options. I think Andre Dillard, the former first-round pick for the Eagles, who isn't getting on the field, could be an option, might not cost the Jets as much. And while it's a bit more of a gamble, it's a player that maybe Douglas has connections with while he was within Philadelphia. And I just think it's an opportunity to just take a shot on an offensive line without giving up a premium pick. Although the news today about the offensive line, not exactly great. The hope was George Fant could potentially be back this week and Max Mitchell coming off the IR this week as well. But of course, the Jets made it clear in the press conference today that the plan is to have them come after the bye. And in some regards, that makes some sense. Both are coming off significant lower body injuries and probably need some time to work back. I believe Mitchell will be back after the bye. The one player I am concerned about is George Fant, because Fant it doesn't sound as optimistic with. And the thing with Fant is the knee has been an issue for the entire year. We've heard about it throughout the offseason. We heard about it through training camp. We heard about it while he wasn't playing well earlier this year. Like, there seems to be a chronic problem with that knee potentially. And if I had to guess, this is Fant's probable last year. And if they could get him back 100% healthy, I would also venture to say Fant would probably be starting at left tackle over Dwayne Brown. Now, look, Brown has been excellent filling in. Brown has been better than expected, but you could tell he's not 100% with that injury. You can tell with the shoulder injury, with the rotator cuff. He's not the same player at this point. He's gutting it out, which is great that they have a body out there. But you do wonder if a healthy Fant would be a better upgrade over Brown at this point. But it does emphasize the need for an offensive lineman. And the big name that, of course, has been out there is Laramie Tunsil. Now, one thing that is interesting about Laramie Tunsil is the Texans look like they're going to be sellers, but they haven't started the selling process yet. A team like the Bears, who just moments ago traded Raquan Smith to the Ravens, they have already signaled that they're selling. It started with Robert Quinn. Now they've gotten another piece out the door, and I wouldn't be surprised if they try to get another piece and more draft capital in their pockets. Now, the Texans are in an interesting spot. I think their first priority is get Brandon Cooks out because he wants out. He's an older receiver. He's a veteran receiver that wants to go play somewhere else, and it's probably not in their long-term plans. Laramie Tunsil is an intriguing one because he does have a high cap hit for them, but it's also so hard to find left tackles. And if this team's going to draft the franchise quarterback potentially in the upcoming draft, it doesn't necessarily make sense to let go of Laramie Tunsil, though Lejay Douzable brought up a great point today. And if you haven't checked it out, Lejay's doing a lot of great breakdowns of Zach Wilson. I highly recommend you go check that out on his Twitter. But he did throw out a trade that when I thought about it, I liked. Elijah Moore in a fourth for Laramie Tunsil. Now, I think it might even have to be as high as a 3 in Elijah Moore. I personally wouldn't trade Elijah Moore. Saleh was asked in the press conference, are they going to trade Elijah Moore? He said that they are not. But if you had to trade Elijah Moore in a pick to get a Laramie Tunsil, I would do it in a heartbeat. Because like I was saying in the breakdown yesterday, and it's tough to talk about how bad Zach was yesterday, but right or wrong, Zach's going to be this team's quarterback, and they have to get an answer on him, whether it's good or bad, and which sucks to hear as Jet fans because you're praying that's not bad, but the Jets need an answer. And right now, one of the excuses that's being thrown out there, well, the offensive line has been terrible. The offensive line has been terrible. And while it hasn't been great, I still would say it's an average offensive line, and a lot of the pressure is coming from Zach not stepping up in the pocket and not having pocket awareness. But I'll be that. If the Jets can get a great piece like that, I think they would. Andre Dillard, I think you could get for a third-day pick, maybe a fifth or a sixth, but of course doesn't have the track record that a Laramie Tunsil would get. Now, another intriguing possibility for the Jets is could they improve the guard position? It's hard to find a premier tackle, but if the Jets truly believe, and I also believe what is going to be very telling is how they handle the tackle position. They play a premium for a tackle. It's telling you that the fan injury is a lot more significant than you expect. And it's trending that way too when you look at the situation where Fant was supposed to come back a week ago, and now it's all of a sudden not going to be able to come out to the bye. So I'm interested to see what they do. Nate Herbig has done a solid job filling in at right guard, but maybe it's easier to get a better quality guard than a tackle right now. And at this point, if you can improve this offensive line anyway, you would have to. And it's also shown with the Bradley Chubb that they're still looking to improve this defense. They're still looking to go out and get pass rushers, and they're still trying to improve this team any way they can. But personally, I think it comes down to the offense. But let's get to your chats, guys. And again, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe, make sure to like, and also check us out on social media. Give us a follow at Rich Sports Talk using the handle. Okay. Daquan Jones. I say the Jets stay put with the roster. I wouldn't want to give out any more draft picks. And if they're not trading Elijah Moore, then why trade anybody else? Well, Daquan, that's a good point. But there are a couple pieces on this team that I do think they could trade. And one is Bryce Hall. Now, Bryce Hall hasn't played. He hasn't been active. But he still could probably be a starting corner or at least a valuable corner for a team right now. That's one of the reasons I think Philadelphia and Andre Dillard could make sense because the Eagles could use corner help. Maybe they can trade him for a later pick. I also am curious too, like, could you package maybe Hall with Elijah Moore and like a fourth to get Laramie Tunsil, something along those lines. But I don't think they're going to make any significant moves like taking away pieces, but keep an eye on Bryce Hall. I do think I would be surprised if he's still on this team after the trade deadline. And look, just because Elijah Moore wants a trade, just because Elijah Moore is clearly frustrated Zach Wilson, there's still a lot to do with Elijah Moore. He's clearly a talented kid, and the Jets need to find a way to use him. But it will be telling what happens to this trade line. I doubt Elijah Moore gets traded during this season. But if a team comes along with an offer the Jets can't refuse, I mean, we know Joe Douglas will always pick up the phone. I worry about Fant too. Fant really only played well when he was next to AVT. Yeah, Fant last year, like it's so weird because I've been pretty spot on with a lot of my Jets takes, but one of the takes that I've come to regret was that they should have given Fant extension because I thought Fant played a very good left tackle last year, but Fant's also showing a reason why he wasn't kept in Seattle and why a lot of teams didn't engage him on the trade market because he's a talented player, but the problem is the durability, and it's come back to haunt him this year. And look, this is a big issue when you have a knee issue that was bothering you all camp, that's been bothering you all season, and now we get to the point where it's missing even more games. So look, it's frustrating with Fant, and it was someone that the Jets really were hoping to rely on. And there was one of the reasons I was pounding on the table for the Jets to take a tackle early in the draft is because even though I liked Fant, I said, look, you have Becton and Fant who are injury-prone tackles. And unfortunately, both have gotten hurt this year. I know what they're saying, but I wouldn't be shocked if Moore's dealt in spite of it. It seems like he's trying to be dealt. And look, in some regards, I know a lot of people might have emotional investment in Elijah Moore. I'd like to hear what you guys have to think. But I will not be broken up if they trade Elijah Moore because I really believe that they have a better player in Garrett Wilson right now. I think Garrett Wilson is a great wide receiver. And I have to give the Jets credit. Denzel Mims, last couple of weeks, has been playing more. And Saleh has said that yesterday wasn't a punishment of Elijah Moore. So Mims gives them size. Mims gives them playmaking ability down the field. And look, Braxton Berrios has developed into another really nice piece for this offense. I don't think they're utilizing the weapons in all the ways that they can, but it's clear that Moore has been struggling. And again, I know a lot of it's also been on the quarterback play, but great players also find ways to produce. Like, despite Wilson struggling yesterday, Garrett Wilson still was able to come down with 100 yards. And look, Elijah Moore, maybe it's just a bad fit. And sometimes this just happens. Sometimes you get a talented player, but it's just not the right fit. Like Breece Hall, the attitude that he has, the right fit. Sauce Gardner, the right fit. Elijah Moore was a risk. The Jets took a risk on him in the second round because he's a first-round talent. But when first-round talents aren't taken in the first round, it's for reasons. And one of the things that was brought up was the maturity for Elijah Moore. So if a team's willing to give up a high pick or if he can be used as a key piece to get like Laramie Tunsil, I'm all for that. I thought LeJay brought up a great point on Twitter today. Daquan, I'd like to hear your opinions about this. I would because Tunsil, if I could, because Tunsil is a really good left tackle, still 28. You would have your left tackle issue figured for probably the next 3 to 4 seasons and not have to worry about drafting. And then you can basically not have to worry about the left tackle position. And next year, coming with Becton as your right tackle and Mitchell as a high-end backup behind him. So if for the price is right, I'm not giving up like a first-round pick for Laramie Tunsil, but if I can get a good deal for him, I wouldn't say no. I don't agree with this. You look at the yesterday of the pressures, 10 of the pressures came from the tackles, 5 from each tackle. And I think there was 12 or 13 total pressures in the game. The interior defensive line hasn't been great, but it really hasn't been the problem. It's been the tackle position because I think Herberg's done a solid job filling in. I mean, Connor McGovern's done a good job at center. And look, Laken Tomlinson really struggled, but he's been holding his own a bit. And when the left tackle play has been good, he's been better. But now all of a sudden you see Dwayne Brown starting to struggle. And look, I don't think it's Dwayne Brown's age. I think it's the injury. I think he's limited by that injury. Let's see. If the Jets still believe in Zach, they won't keep Moore. Moore has no belief in Zach. You don't keep that energy around your franchise quarterback, so we'll find out what they really view Zach on Tuesday. Look, they've also made it clear in the press conference, Zach's they were asked about the whole Mike White situation, and Saleh said they're not going to bench Wilson this year. And look, they shouldn't. Guys on this channel, I'm a huge Zach Wilson supporter. I admit it. Yes, it was ugly, but I've been saying this for the last couple of months. This season is about Zach Wilson. Look, you want to give a guy 3 years, but I think it's come down to 2 years. Like if Zach Wilson cannot win with this group, then it's clear the Jets are going to need to make a change at the quarterback position because you have the GM in place, the head coach in place, you have a good young roster in place, and the ascending roster that looks at the time being held back by the quarterback. And a lot of it is not just the quarterback. We see the talent with Zach, but we don't see the execution. And my biggest worry with him is I keep seeing the same mistakes over and over again. If I saw improvement where he's not making the dumb mistakes, then great. But I'm still seeing him just throwing it up into traffic, not being careful with the football. And Lejay Doosable, I highly recommend checking out on Twitter later, was breaking down Zach. And a lot of the times, too, is Zach has this tendency where he just wants to get out of the pocket. And yeah, the pocket can collapse, but the biggest thing you see great players do is they step up in the pocket. They move within the pocket. Zach's first instinct is to try to get outside the pocket and play basically playground football and try to figure out who's open and try to throw it down the field. Like you can't do that. You just can't. And I also do believe too, actions speak louder than words. I've always said that on this channel. And do I think the Jets are going to pull him for Mike White? No. Do I think Mike White is a great quarterback? No. But of all the quarterbacks that could be a threat that I do think are sending a message to Zach that he has to play better is having Mike White behind him. Because look, let's be honest. With Joe Flacco behind him, with his mobility, he's never getting on the field. But Mike White, if Zach has another game like that, you do have to wonder if that's going to be in his head and he has to play better. So Elijah, he's overrated and weak on the field. Bobby Evans, thing with the Rams is I don't think that they're going to move on from anyone right now. They're a weird team. And granted, they do need draft picks. But, I mean, I like Evans, but they've had so many injuries on their offensive line. I just don't think they're going to give away an offensive lineman. And I'm not sure what price you'd have to give up for Bobby Evans. Like, I don't hate it. I don't think it's a bad idea. But look, teams need offensive lines. And even though the Rams are not a great team, I don't think the Rams are going to be complete sellers at the deadline. And they've had so many injuries to the offensive line, they're not going to just give away a tackle. Rich, my thing is more can't be the only one who feels the way that he feels. We get rid of talent like more of our quarterback who's terrible and holding the team back. Like that's going to be the thing too. Like the Jets have to understand, and I do think the players to an extent understand that. Look, they have to figure out with Zach and with more. Look, a lot of this too is I do think a lot of this has to be on Moore because I get he's frustrated with Zach, but it also shows you how you handle tough situations. Like I said on the show, if I was Elijah, I'd fire my manager and my personnel team around me because the optics around what he did have looked a lot worse. And to be honest, I think it's hurt his trade value. If he really wanted to be traded, I mean, what team would want to trade for a receiver? Like, think about it. The Jets had won 3 games in a row. I mean, so if the Chiefs lose a game or two, is he going to get pissed because he didn't get targeted? If he goes to a great team, like, will he get pissed? And like, even if he goes to like, hypothetically, let's say Green Bay ponies up and gives the Jets a great trade for him. If he runs a wrong route or doesn't get in the right situation, is Aaron Rodgers, we've seen it. He pouts and Aaron Rodgers will cut you out of the offense. Is Elijah Moore then going to complain and then be upset too when Aaron Rodgers decides to come out of the offense? So I think a lot's on Elijah. I do think, look, Zach has struggled. I don't think that it's clear, but they also have to understand he's a second-year quarterback. But if these struggles continues, like it's going to lead to an answer. And I know it might not be the answer Jet fans want to hear. I know that Jet fans are so desperate for a quarterback, and I get it. I want a quarterback too. But if he's not going to be the answer, you got to figure out if he's the answer this year. Even if it's painful, they're going to find out if he's the answer. Because if he's not, I do think they're going to try. It will be a big discussion this offseason on what direction to go forward because they do have a good roster around Zach. And is this fully on Zach? No, I don't think the offensive line's helping. I don't think LaFleur. I think LaFleur's doing an okay job, but they get away from the run too much. But you look at the stats, and look, I mean, Connor Hughes went on and ripped him, but there was a great thing where I didn't love Zach at the press conference last night, basically being pissed off and angry. And I get he's pissed off and angry, but the way he was responding just didn't really come off well to me. But Hughes brought up a great stat, which was the Jets quarterbacks through their first 18 games. And it's pretty damning. And look, I think stats can be a little bit overrated, but you look at the tail through 18 games. And for Zach, it ain't pretty. Sam Darnold, 59% completion, 3,900 yards, 23 TDs, 24 picks, 75 quarterback rating. Geno Smith, 56%, 3,400 yards, 14 touchdowns, 23 interceptions, 68.21. Mark Sanchez, 54%, 2,994 yards, 18 touchdowns, 20 picks, 70 rating. Now, to Zach's credit, he hasn't thrown as many picks as those guys, but he also has not even come close to the touchdowns. So Wilson, 55%, only better than Sanchez, 3,000 yards, 3,300 yards, only better than Sanchez, 12 touchdowns, the lowest, interception 16, the lowest, but has the lowest ranking of all those guys at 66.36. And look, it's not perfect sample size, but the other thing you look at too is this team's a lot better than the team Sam had around him. Like Sam, I don't think is a great quarterback, but you also have to admit the team that was around Sam was god awful. The Jets, even with losing Brees Hall, still have a lot of pieces. And even the Jets, when they had Brees Hall, it wasn't like Zach Wilson was lighting up the world in terms of his passing stats. I mean, the Jets have tight ends. The Jets have depth at the receiver position. Like this is probably of all those offenses, the only offense I think was better was Sanchez because he had the unbelievable offensive line, the great running game, and had in that second season Braylon Edwards, Jericho Cotchery, and who was the other receiver for the Jets? I don't think it was Coles at the time. Who was it? It was Cotchery. It was Braylon Edwards, Santonio Holmes. But that's the only other team that was better. But this Jet team, while young, has more talent. So, look, they're not moving on from Zach this year. They're not benching Zach this year unless it goes really sideways. But I did think it was interesting that Saleh did make the decision to upgrade Mike White to the second backup position. So let's see. The other thing, too, is the accuracy. I'm really concerned about that. But I do think you're going to see at this trade deadline this team be aggressive and try to go out there and find a piece. I do think that they're going to try to be aggressive on this deadline. So I'm just checking out right now to see if any other trades have gone by. And look, like the one thing about Zach, like it's not just Zach, it's his whole quarterback class has not been good, man. Like Fields looks great athletically, but I don't know if he's going to hold up, and he still struggles throwing the football. Trevor Lawrence is missing easy passes. Mac Jones looks like it doesn't look good. I mean, that whole draft class does not look good, man. It really freaking doesn't. Let's see. So I'm just looking to see if any other trades have been made in the NFL. But look, I do think if I'm the Jets, like I do love the fact that they were kicking the tires on Bradley Chubb. I doubt that happens. I know Kareem Hunt's probably outplayed now with James Robinson there. I do think you're going to see him look at offensive line. But the other interesting thing, too, is like, could the Jets make a swap of players? Like Jerry Jeudy has been disappointing in Denver for the first 3 years, and they're looking to move on. Elijah Moore wants a new change of scenery. Could it be a thing where maybe the Jets trade more in like a 6th-round pick for Jerry Jeudy? Now, again, it might even be the opposite where the Broncos would kick in a late pick because technically Judy's going to be up for a contract first. But, I mean, could that be a situation potentially? I don't know. But let's see. Some more questions. And I'd love to hear from you guys any players that you think that the Jets should try to trade for, like within the realm possible. Like they're not trading for like an Aaron Rodgers. They're not trading for a quarterback. But if you think there's a receiver, maybe, if you think that there's a offensive lineman that I haven't mentioned, please let me know. Andrew, I still don't understand why we didn't run the ball. Look, Andrew, I share a brain with you. That's one thing I was pissed off. 15 carries is not enough, and 14 between the two running backs. It wasn't going as well yesterday running the football, but look, they get away from the run too much. Zach Wilson's got to be throwing the ball like 30 times a game, not 41 like yesterday. They got to run the ball more, and not even just run the ball. But Braxton Berrios has been one of their most effective runners. Like, he didn't even get a touch in that regard yesterday, which really pissed me off. And look, that's a way they want to use Elijah Moore, get him involved in the run game. Like San Francisco, you see it; they use their receivers to run. And when the Breece Hall injury happened, I said, look, they got to get Berrios more involved. I wouldn't be mad if they had Berrios lining up as a running back. I wouldn't be mad if he got 5 to 7 carriers a game, because he's a good runner and he can make guys miss, and he's an explosive playmaker. We need to find O-line help. We have a great defense already. The problem is the O-line help's really hard to find, and I know they're going to try to do everything they can. So they might make a move, but it might not be the big move. Lawrence has more upside than Zach. Look, I agree, but I also think I do laugh too, because Lawrence keeps getting such a big pass. And like, I remember working on a show this weekend where the host was basically saying, well, basically we have to give him a whole pass for the Urban Meyer thing last year. I'm like, okay, that was last year. I mean, he's got Doug Pearson, who's won a freaking Super Bowl, and they're 2-6. And the Jaguars are a decent team. They really are. Like, they have some weapons. I think, Jacob, I know that this is the long way down the road. Like, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Trust me, I will have options. I've been studying the draft, but I think it's still too early for that. But if we cross that bridge, I'll make sure to mention that. I think that's a little much, but look, I don't think it's looking good. I could see him trading for a safety or D tackle. D tackle's interesting because they did have Linval Joseph in. They didn't sign him. He could still be signed. It's going to be interesting because Saleh said that they didn't have Jermaine Johnson suit up this past week. I also am wondering too, are they going to trade one of their pass rushers? I wouldn't trade Huff, but could they maybe trade Martin or something just to open up some more playing time for Jermaine Johnson? Because Vinny Curry's played decently when he's been in there. You're not moving Lawson. You're not moving John Franklin Myers. So Jet fans, I know after yesterday would like to see that happen, but that's not happening. I just would like to, I'm curious to see, like, could they maybe, that could be interesting too. Like, could the Jets package something? And look, they need to get Jermaine Johnson more playing that too. I mean, he was a first round pick. Like, I know he's been hurt, but they need to get him on the field more. Trade Moritz and Mims, Hall, second rounders for Tunsil, Conklin, and Chubb. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen. I do like the creativity, though. Let's see. We need more sweeps and creativity in the run game. Choose more. Yeah. Like, that's the thing, too. Like, the Jets, when they were running the ball, was the misdirection. Like, the Breece Hall play that sprung big in Green Bay was because they were using misdirection. Like, have the ball hiked and, like, almost run options out of it, like, with the receivers. And, look, they still do a lot of the wide receiver motion, but get them involved. And look, get Zach involved in the running game. I do think Zach doesn't want to run because of the injury. But right now, what Zach does best at this point is his athleticism. You see Justin Fields is winning with his athleticism. Like, I want to see Zach win with his athleticism. And it doesn't even have to be much. If he can just take off and gain 6 yards on a broken play, or turn a broken play into a 3-4 yard game on second down to make it 3rd and 6 instead of a 3rd and 10, that's big. That's really big. So I agree with you, Andrew. I completely agree with you. Let's see. We're getting a lot of chat. Look, Jacob, I think I give Mims a lot of credit. I mean, he's handled it very well. And look, it might not be what we thought, but if the Jets hit on one of their second round receivers, if Mims becomes a good player for this team, then, because I don't think that Corey Davis is going to be long after the season, but if you can get Mims on the right page and Mims plays hard, and look, Mims also helps on the running game. He's a good run blocker. He showed you why he has ability in the game, taking a play, stretching the field. The Jets need, especially without Breece Hall, to have as many playmakers on the field. And really, Mims is one of the few playmakers right now that can switch the field, and I would like to see him get more involved. And look, he's earned it. He's played really well, and I think that he deserves the opportunity to keep doing that. Kareem Hunt, I think, is out because he's a 4th, and the Jets already traded for Robinson. I mean, I wouldn't hate it. A part of me feels like Tevin Coleman could be maybe in play, like, because I know he was cut. I don't think the running back's the issue, too. impressed. I'm afraid Seattle in the next year or two with their current home runs on. Yeah, this draft's really strong, but look, I think you're. Are you talking about like the upcoming draft or the draft class that? The past draft. Yeah. So no, it's been a great draft, and that's the thing though. The Jets have had a great draft. They have a great roster now. That right now they just got to figure out the quarterback. Uh, I don't think they're going to trade Fitzpatrick. He's the heart and soul of that defense. And look, the safeties have not been great, but they've been better the last. Like, look, they were not good the first couple of weeks, but they've played well the last couple of weeks. Again, I know that they had the tackling issue in this game. I don't think safety is their biggest thing. It's still the offense. It's figuring out Zach. Like this defense is. I think you can make a case that this defense could be a top 5 defense in the NFL. I really do. Let's see. Jacob, I apologize from that about that. But look, if you can get a safety for the right price, I wouldn't hate it if because it could be an upgrade over Joyner. I mean, they're not Whitehead's going to be in the lineup. I knew interesting. Gavin Guidry is signing with the Eagles practice squad, good old Jet player, and Damian Woody I haven't commented on it, but guys, has Zach improved at all since joining the Jets? If so, where? Let me answer that if I was Woody, like if Woody was asking me that question. Outside of yesterday, I do think the ball protection has been a little bit better. I get concerned with Zach just throwing it down the field. And look, he had a couple of throws in the past games, even when he didn't have a turnover. They were turnover-worthy plays. The biggest thing that I think's been disappointing me, and I kind of go back to it, is the athleticism. Zach played better down the stretch when he was running the ball. We know the big touchdown run he had. Like when he was really running around using his legs, I think that elevated him. And he's not doing it this year. Now, a part of me thinks it's that injury because I think and also this goes to the judgment. That preseason injury, I even said at the time, this is on Zach because you shouldn't be doing that in the preseason. Just throw the freaking ball away or run out of bounds. And he tried to make a cutback and he hurt his knee. Now, the question is, does he feel comfortable running the football? And my guess is no, because he keeps trying to run backwards. He doesn't look like he wants to get hit. And look, no one wants to get hit, but if one of your best assets is your ability to make plays with your legs down the field, like I can't remember the last time Zach just took off for like 5 or 6 yards, like on a broken play. And I do think he's gun shy running. I think the perfect example was that 4th down play yesterday when it was the 4th and 5. I believe it was on the Patriots 38, 39. Maybe I'm not exactly right with the yardage, but you saw, I was saying it, and I was angry yesterday where the Patriots weren't even containing. That's part of the reason I think the Jets are struggling with the passes because like they're just free rushing. They opened up the middle of the field. Zach could have taken off for 10 or 15 yards, easily gotten the conversion, instead tried to throw into triple coverage to Ty Conklin. Gee, would you be disappointed if no moves happened? I think the Jet fandom will be. Look, I still am positive. Look, the back end of the schedule, I think, is harder than it was when we first came into the season. If you were to tell me the Jets are 5-3 coming this season, I would take that. I still keep telling people I know we want to break the playoff drought, but I really believe is next year's the big takeoff year. I still think they're going to be competing for a playoff spot, and they are playing meaningful games. Like at this time, we always talk about draft picks at Halloween. We're actually talking about them competing. But the other thing too is like sometimes they can't make a move because there's nothing there. Like I'd rather have Douglas not make a bad move. And to his credit, Joe's not going to make a bad move. Like we've seen them be calculated with their decisions where like I have not seen Douglas have a trade where you feel like the Jets gave up too much or that the Jets, if anything, you feel like the Jets got players for a steal. So a lot of it's going to be the asking price. If like Bradley Chubb, for example, the Jets could get him for a second, I think they'd do that in a heartbeat, like a 2nd and a 5. But if it's a 1st round pick and they're not moving off it, I don't think the Jets would do it. If Laramie Tunsil, if the Jets could give him for like Elijah Moore and like a 4 and a later pick or a 3 and a later pick, maybe they do it. But if the Texans want a 1st round pick for Laramie Tunsil and they're not going to budge, then I don't think they'll make a move. And while that'd be frustrating, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Although the biggest X factor to me is also going to be Bryce Hall. Like, can the Jets use him? Like I've been saying, like he's not playing. Like if the Jets could find a team, even they get a draft pick for him, and the draft pick's not even necessarily a draft player. It could be ammo either in the offseason or next year's draft to go up and get another player. So that also has to be taken to account. We need linebacker. Will be gone. No, he's not coming back, Jacob. They restructured his deal. Basically, he's not coming back. He's coming back next year. I'd be shocked if he wasn't because it'd be dead cap. They're not going to do that. I don't know if this is directed at me, but yeah, he is now because Herbig was the backup guard now playing. We should use 2 tight ends to running backs and give Zach a chance to pocket and roll. Like that's the thing too. Like if he's going to be running around, they need to roll him out of the pocket. The 2 tight end looks I agree with. And the 2 running backs. I mean, you have James Robinson, you have Michael Carter. It's not even them. Like you could put Braxton Berrios in that backfield. I would be after that. Let's see. Let's see. Lots of good stuff in here, guys. Sorry, I fell behind a little bit in the chat. Let me catch up a little bit. KD. I still think the DT is in play. They were on DJ Jones and Obaga and free agency now involved. They are looking for something. I do think they're going to look for a defensive tackle. And I think that if I had to guess, it's probably going to be the free agent route, not the trade route. Yeah, they could have easily rolled about a couple times last week. If Zach plants his feet, he's great, but when he has to scramble, that's the other thing too. Like he's got to set his feet. Like he's like the interception yesterday, he was thrown off the back plate. He didn't have his feet set. Like he needs to work on the mechanics. We need to help Zach slow the game more. Look, I think you do that with more of a running game. I agree, but the part of the problem too is like Zach's got to understand those plays don't work. And look, this has to be a learning experience for him because he got away with it. And that the problem is like when you can get away with stuff, you develop bad habits. He's been doing this for a couple of weeks where he's just been kind of throwing it up and nothing bad or catastrophic has happened. Like the Green Bay, he had a player or two like that. The Broncos he had, but the problem is when you do against the Patriots, you have a good secondary and a secondary that's always going to be looking for the ball. That came back to mom. Like, look, Zach's got to learn from this. There's no question. Like they cannot be playing like that. You cannot survive like that. Let's see. If you're scared running, LaFleur should call more RPOs and quick passes, or am I missing something? Well, if he's scared of running, then why would you do an RPO? Because that's a run-pass option. The run-pass option is like for the running back or for the quarterback. Because you're talking about the quarterback RPO, then that doesn't make sense. But the running back RPO, I agree. And look, the Jets also have to figure out how to get Elijah Moore more involved. They have to continue to keep looking. And again, I'm going to keep checking on Twitter really quick just to see if anything breaks. I always laugh because it always feels like right when I go off the show, something breaks or during the show. As of now, though, haven't seen anything major breaking. But look, I mean, Dan Orlovsky had a great thing on ESPN today, saying, look, in that quarterback room, they have to go to Zach and be like, what the hell are you doing, man? It's clear that, Zach, I don't know what it is. If it's just a bad habit, if he still feels like he has to make the play, did last year create a bad habit where he felt he had to try to carry the offense? He doesn't have to necessarily do that anymore. And I also wonder too, when he's against the Patriots, was it a thing he's trying to prove himself, but he's trying too hard? Excuses left and right for Zach once it's on his shoulders. Look, I think that there's legitimate concern, but I keep saying he's young. He's got to make mistakes. And I said before the season, there's going to be, with a young team like this and a young quarterback like this, there's going to be at least a game or two where you come out of, you're going WTF, what just happened? And this is probably one of those games this year. And it's frustrating. I get it. We want to see Zach further along in the process, and he's got to prove himself. And I've also said, too, I think there's a big strike against him getting injured early in the season because he's going to go, even if he plays every game the rest of the season, he's going to have missed 7 games in the first 34 of his career, which is not a good sign. And look, I also wonder too how ownership and management looks at this, because year two is supposed to be the pop year now in the NFL. Like, Justin Herbert established himself. Lamar Jackson won an MVP. Joe Burrow made to the goddamn Super Bowl. So you look around this league and we're seeing not only them taking a step, but a big step. And if we don't see that from Zach, that's going to raise a lot of questions. But I do think the Jets are going to make sure that they're going to do everything they can. And look, I said coming into the year, Zach can't really have excuses because of all the rookie quarterbacks. The Jets have done more for him than any of the quarterbacks in his draft class. They didn't change the head coach. They didn't change the GM. He was the only one that had the same head coach, OC, and GM of all those 5 quarterbacks. He's the only one that the Jets made a vast effort to bring in weapons, to bring in offensive linemen. When an injury happened, to instantly bring in someone. The Bears are selling off pieces after one of their most impressive wins in years. The Jaguars, and again, Etienne looks great, but they traded James Robinson. What happens in a week if Etienne goes down? How's that going to help Trevor Lawrence development if he doesn't have a running back behind him? I look at Mac Jones. I mean, they're doing the whole Zappy benching thing, and they haven't really brought in explosive players to help him. They have a defensive coordinator calling his plays. Like, Zach Wilson, of all of his peers in his draft class, has the best situation, has the best GM right now, and has probably the most talented team around him, even with all the injuries. So a lot of times play, and it's put up or shut time. Yeah, Dan Orlovsky. Like, look, I've met Dan. Dan sees the game in an unbelievable way, and he breaks it down unbelievable. He's one of the best analysts in football right now. I think Mitchell's going to be the right tackle because the news today from Sal was both are going to be out through the bye, which isn't much news because you knew it'd be rough to get him back. So at least they get a 2-week timetable. I really do believe Mitchell's going to be the right tackle. Fant's going to be interesting. Like, if Fant's 100%, you could even debate, could he be the left tackle over Brown right now, because Brown's clearly not healthy, but we'll have to see. Fant also, the knee doesn't seem to be getting better. The worst part about the trade deadline is we have not one, but 2 teams in Buffalo, man, they're going to make more trades and build super rosters. But KD, I get that, but they're also in different places right now where, look, Tua's played really well for Miami this year. Now, they've also invested a ton around him, and if they lose a piece or two, I'm curious how they'll do. But look, they had to be desperate with Tua. Now, I don't think the Jets are at that point that Miami was, like, where they had to figure it out. I think the Jets, though, are going to get close, and that there's going to be a lot of questions as that continues not to play well. And look, Miami, it's an AFC that seems a little bit more wide open. They have a shorter window, I think, than the Jets, because the Jets, all of these players are like 25. Like, Miami, it feels like with all the big contracts they have like a 2 or 3 window to really try to make this work, so they can be aggressive. And look, Bills right now are the Super Bowl favorite. Like, they haven't won a Super Bowl. They're going to do everything they can. The Jets are still, and I know this is frustrating for fans to hear, and fans don't want to hear, because I get it. I want the playoff drought to end. I want to see the Jets compete, but the Jets are still technically in a rebuild. Like, if I was to tell you the Jets would be 5-3 right now, you would take that. If I was to tell you the Jets would be playing competitive football, like, the expectations coming this year is like, can the Jets get to 7 wins? Could the Jets play meaningful games in the back half of the schedule? And they're going to. I think that they've arrived a little bit early, and I think they're one more year away from really being up there if things go right. But look, I think at the deadline that they have to be smart, but it'll be interesting to see what they have to do. Zach just finished his first season game-wise, but I think he tries way too much. We're a huge market for a young quarterback. Yeah, it's frustrating. JFM needs to stop the stupid penalties, but I was ranting about this. I think people are making too much of the JFM penalty. Yes, I know. I hate those type of calls in the NFL. Yes, I know it probably shouldn't have been a pass, like a roughing the passer. I get that he's had the history with that, and it does need to stop. It does need a nip in the butt. But look, that's not even the point of the game, because the Jets, that doesn't even happen. Like, I'm going to say this once because I'm not going back to it. I said that doesn't even happen if he doesn't throw that terrible pick. Like, there was 40-something seconds on the clock. If Zach even took a freaking sack there, that would have been better, because you know what would have happened? Patriots have to burn a timeout. Man, if he shanks another punt, it's going to go at least 25, 30 yards. You put the Patriots inside their 30 with the way the Jets defense is playing and make them go like 40 or 50 yards again, a field goal range with only 1 or 2 timeouts. I think that changed the whole. I think that was the turn point of the game. I get why JFM, because of the touchdown taken off the board. I get it. But also, Zach, this team was in this game. And despite his horrible turnovers, his defense kept them in the game because those last 2 turnovers were unacceptable. They were deep in their zone. And I said, this isn't the same old Jets. You know what the same old Jets would have done? They would let the Patriots go down their damn throats and score both those times. And they didn't. They held them to field goals. The Jets were in this game. The Jets had opportunities in this game, but their quarterback couldn't step up. Let's see. We need to trade Elijah. I don't think he's going to trade. Like, unless the Jets get blown away, they're not trading Elijah Moore. Yeah, I think that Jones penalty was BS too. And it was funny because you saw the refs giving up makeup calls after that, seemingly the Jets. It's like that doesn't matter. Like those don't matter at this point. 5-4 the bye week, then 4-5 to the end. We are in great position to make the playoffs. Like I agree, Andrew. They're in good position. And let's be honest. I know New England's been a house of horrors, but what about that Patriot team really made you feel like they were that much better? Like I think the most frustrating part about that game is that the Jets are the better team. The Jets have the better roster. Like the Jets, you felt like were in the position to finally change. And that's what's most frustrating is because the Jets have been a bad team, but you felt like the Jets are a better team than the Patriots. And like, does Mac Jones and that offense scare me? No. Does that offensive line scare me? No. Even their defense, does their defense really scare me? No. It's just this offense needs to figure out how to execute, not do dumb shit. Like seriously, like that's what they have to do. So, but look ahead this trade deadline. Like even if they don't get a big name, I know Tunsil's a big name. Andre Dillard, I'd take a shot. Look, he's a former first-round pick with the Eagles. And I'm curious too, because the Eagles have said like one of the few positions they would like to address is the corner position. Could they? I don't think a straight swap for Bryce Hall would work, but Bryce and a 6 for Dillard. I mean, I wouldn't hate him. He's still 27 years old. He's still someone that has some football obviously ahead of him. Look, he was a former first-round pick. Like I wouldn't hate it, and it's someone that's had some starting experience, 9 games started. Look, I'd kick the tires on that. Maybe there's another player like that around the NFL that's underutilized because we've seen too with scheme fits. Jets have found good players to defend the scheme. Like Quincy Williams has been a great example of someone that was undervalued somewhere else that the Jets have picked up. Yeah, that's the thing. And I said this last night, Andrew. We lost the past games. That was the thing. Like I don't think the Patriots are that much better. I just think that the Jets shot themselves in the foot. Our defense also special teams was bad. It wasn't a good day. Look, like they held the Patriots. Like the Patriots scored 1 touchdown that whole game. It's like in today's NFL, if you hold the team to 22 points, you should win the freaking game. I'm sorry, but like the Jets, I don't care. The Patriots are not the number 1 defense. Like the Jets should be able to find a way to score 24 points. I'm sorry. So the special teams didn't help. I get it. But the biggest problem with the Jets was their offense. It was their quarterback play in that game. But again, guys, thank you so much for joining us. If you're joining us after, please make sure to give us a like and subscribe. We'll be back to talk more about the Jets and the trade deadline, especially if they make a move here on the channel. So you're not going to want to miss that. Again, guys, thanks so much for joining us here today. Look forward to seeing you next time here on Rich Sports Talk. Have a good one, guys.